All right, let's dive into a story that, on the surface, seems like it's just about a broken TV, but it's really about something much deeper. It's about how a simple, everyday accident can spin out into this really complex web of manipulation, and how memory itself can be, well, shattered. You know how it is, right? Every family has its own mythology. These stories we tell over and over at family dinners until they basically become historical fact. The funny screw ups, the cautionary tales, they kind of shape who we are. But what happens when one of those foundational family stories isn't just a slightly misremembered detail? What if it's a flat out lie? A lie that's built not just to cover up the truth, but to completely rewrite it for someone else. Okay, let's get into it. Section 1. The Shattered Screen. This is where it all begins. A single, chaotic moment that could honestly happen in any house on any given day. So, picture this. It's a quiet afternoon, you hear the usual hums of the house, and then crash, a sudden, sharp noise. You walk in, and there it is. The TV screen, just a spiderweb of cracks. The family center for movie nights is now just a pile of broken glass and plastic. So, the big question, who did it? Well, it was the mother. Just a simple, clumsy moment, she knocked it over. But here's the absolute key to this whole story. Nobody saw it happen. She was totally alone. And this right here is the pivot point. The story stops being about the accident and starts being about the reaction. You can just imagine that feeling, right? That pit in your stomach, thinking about the consequences, and that really powerful primal urge to just not be in trouble. That brings us to section 2, a mother's deception. This is where we see that moment of pure panic start to crystallize into a very calculated, very deliberate plan to build a whole new reality. And here's basically the 4-step playbook for how it goes down. It starts with pure panic and realizing, oh no, what have I done? But instead of just fessing up, she identifies a target, a scapegoat. And who better than her young, totally impressionable son? Then she cooks up a story that's nearly impossible for him to argue against. And the final step? Plant that story like it's a fact. And this is the lie. Just listen to it. You were talking in your sleep and thrashing around. You must have knocked it over while you were dreaming. I mean, it's kind of perfect in a terrifying way. It explains everything. It puts her son at the scene of the crime, and it gives him a built-in excuse for why he has zero memory of it. It is an airtight psychological trap. So what is actually going on here psychologically? That brings us to section 3, the psychology of blame. Because this isn't just telling a fib. What she's doing is actually deploying a textbook psychological defense mechanism. It's called blame shifting. It's basically a way for our ego to protect itself from feeling bad. So instead of dealing with her own feelings of guilt or shame for what she did, the mother essentially outsources those feelings. She hands them over to her son, unburdening herself by putting all of that weight directly on his shoulders. And what this does is it creates these two totally separate, parallel realities living under the same roof. You've got the mother's reality, which is simple, I broke the TV. And then you've got the son's new reality, where he's stuck in this confusing mess. I guess I broke the TV, feeling all the guilt, but with none of the memory to back it up. And that leads us to section 4. The dream becomes real. What is the actual, tangible impact of planting a false memory like this? Especially when it's coming from a parent who's supposed to be your ultimate source of truth in the world. This, for me, is the most frightening part of this entire situation. A kid's brain is still figuring out how the world works. So when a parent, their most trusted authority, states something as a fact with total confidence, that child's mind can just absorb it, internalize it, and file it away. Not as a story someone told them, but as a real memory. The lie literally becomes his truth. And the damage here, wow, it goes so much deeper than a broken TV. This one act can create this deep-seated self-doubt in a child, making them feel like they can't even trust their own mind. It completely erodes the trust between a parent and child, and it saddles this kid with a heavy sense of guilt that was never his to carry in the first place, and that can last a lifetime. So let's just zoom out for our final section, why this story haunts us. I mean, why does this small domestic drama about a broken appliance feel so significant? What's the real betrayal here? Because when you get right down to it, the television is totally irrelevant. It's just a prop in the play. This story is about betrayal on the most intimate level possible. It shows you the incredible power a parent has to shape their child's reality, for good or for bad, and the incredible damage that happens when that power gets abused. And that's the question I really want to leave you with. Just think for a second about your own earliest memories, those stories that make you who you are. How sure are you, really, that you remember the event? Or do you just remember the story of the event told you again and again until it felt real? It's a pretty chilling thought, and it really shows you just how powerful a story can be.